Good evening. This is the regular meeting of the Board of Commissioners, St. Charles Parish Housing Authority, Tuesday, June 26, 2018. Time is now 6 p.m. Call the meeting to order. We all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. We'll now take roll beginning on my left.
Commissioner Rodney Woods.
Commissioner Bailey.
Commissioner Webb J. All right. At this time, we will take action on the review for the minutes from the meeting on 5/29. Is there board discussion?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we accept the minutes as presented.
Okay. We have a motion by Commissioner Woods.
Wasn't here.
All right.
You would have to do it.
We have a motion on the floor for the review of the minutes from 5/29. We're looking for a second for approval of the minutes.
A second.
All right. For the record, Commissioner Lerat is here now at 6:02, and he has seconded the motion for the approval of the minutes. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That motion carries. All right. I do not see Lieutenant Oob here this evening for the sheriff's report, so we'll begin with the review of the low rent and HCBP expense report for May 2018. Board discussion.
I did have a question. I don't know who to direct it to.
Did you, any word from our fee accountant?
Not today.
I can give an update to that. So, Mr. Ricotta is aware that we put him on notice at the last meeting. So he immediately made a phone call to me. I think I put it in an email at some point, but he already had a prior engagement for this month's meeting. But he assured me that moving forward, he will be at every meeting. So it's really at the determination of the board if we want to give him one more shot. I know he did speak at length with Commissioner Leray about some questions he had prior to this meeting. So any?
Yeah, I asked him quite a few thorough questions. Obviously, I'm a new commissioner, so a lot of my questions could easily be explained. But I think in general, we still need to have a meeting with the fee accountant and the lady at HUD to really get to understand the reconciliation and how we can, I guess, increase some of the prior payments that are being withheld, that are on the balance sheet, but are being withheld from the prior year that can be released. So I look forward to either this coming month, and any other commissioner is welcome to join me, to go meet the representative from HUD to see if there's opportunity to get additional funding.
Okay.
Not only from the old, bringing it forward, but if there's any opportunity for these repairs and what they can do. So might as well get that information straight from HUD as opposed to guessing.
In your conversation, I'm going to just ask you very bluntly. So there is some value in us allowing another, we'll say, 30-day period for him to come before us and answer whatever questions we have?
I would, because after having the discussion with him, he was pretty transparent as far as my discussion and details, because with my accounting background, I really got into the, when you look at the individual, checks and payments and how that comes in, and there should be an offsetting revenue with that. A lot of that is in arrears from HUD, so it's not a dollar for dollar straight, which you would assume that it would be. So the best thing is to go sit down with the HUD representative and question that. As you have an expense here and there's revenue associated with it, why is it not tying out? She would be really the one to help answer that.
Well, with that, Mr. Chairman, I would just say we'll allow that another 30-day period and just move forward with whatever questions we have for the fee accountant.
All right. Do we want to make that a motion since we did state it for the record last time? I don't think it necessarily needs to be,
No,
but
I think we're fine.
No, I
Okay
mean,
with that. I agree.
I'm sure
like I
he's
said, I was
watching
able to
this,
ask
so-
a lot of thorough questions. I didn't have the
Or
books
will.
in front of me to really open it up.
And this is his report too, so I mean, it'd
Correct.
be
It
right
would,
to ask
it
him
would
questions.
greatly facilitate the board for him to be here to answer questions when we have them. So I do know in my discussions with him, if I have a question, he's forthright, but I'd like him on the record here at these meetings. That's what we've been trying to achieve up to this point, so.
Give him one more shot.
All right, one more shot. All right, so is there any more board discussion regarding the expense reports for May 2018?
No, the only thing I would just like to point out, and that is in my discussions with them, and y'all may already be aware, but it's the due to, due from the Section 8 to the low rent.
That's a concern of all of ours.
Correct. So until you get your revenue straight with the expenses and figure that out to where there is a payment back, I mean, you're in the situation you're in right now, so.
Right.
Exactly.
And it also allows the opportunity to, I think when there was requested funding for the future state, it was just denied. At least when you have that one-on-one conversation with them, you can at least understand why that was denied. Because I think the budget was brought forward for capital projects or things like that, and it was just,
Yeah, we had a revised budget for,
but it was
For the
via
capital.
paper. It wasn't a one-on-one discussion to
Right.
understand why was this not allowed? There's clearly terracotta pipes and different things that need to be addressed, to explain that. I'm just one to believe that if you're having that one-on-one conversation, you'll have a better chance at really getting a better answer or being a higher priority on the list of when they decide who's getting the funding and who's not.
all right.
So,
Any further discussion regarding expense reports?
No, sir.
All right, seeing none, do we have a motion to accept the expense reports into the record for May 2018?
Mr. Chair, I make a move that we accept these financial report into the record with the caveat that we may have some questions for the fee accountant when he is before us.
All right, a motion was made by Commissioner Woods,
Second.
second by Commissioner Bailey. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That motion carries. All right. Next agenda item is the VMS report. Ms. Jackson, did you want to go over that?
And VMS stands for Voucher Management System. I know we're throwing out acronyms out there, just want to.
Commissioner Jay, would you like me to go over the entire report or explain exactly what it is and what it entails?
If you want to just give a brief synopsis of what is in the report, and then anything that we should particularly draw our attention to, and then we'll allow the commissioners to ask any questions they have. And
Okay. As Commissioner Bailey said, VMS stands for the Voucher Management System, and this is the system that manages the HCVP, the Housing Choice Voucher Program. And it starts off with, under the system, there is lease-up. Under the lease-up rates, we have the HAP, which is the Housing Assistance Payments, and the administrative fees. With this program, the fee accountant goes in each month, and he puts in the total units that's leased and the total units, the amount of HAP that we pay, and the amount of administrative fees that's earned. Usually, there's a revision done each month because The amount that's put in is on the first, and I'll give you an example. We may have 300 people leased on the first. We're going to put that amount in, what's leased and what we pay for HAP and administrative fees. Between the second and the last day of the month, there may be more lease-ups. Those are then put in, and the fee accountant has to go back in and revise that. The last 6 months of the year is how we receive our funding from HUD. So that's where it comes in with the revisions. They go in to the previous, or the prior 6 months, and then they make an average, and they pay us on average each month after we're leased up. And for instance, this month, we were leased, and we had to go back to HUD and request additional funding because we were leased up over what they were paying. So this system is just a checking and balance. It tracks what we're leased and if we have to go back and make revisions. And each line item on different pages, you may have a previous month, a current month, 12 months, and what's year to date. But it's actually the unit months leased and the housing assistance payments. We have also under this program outgoing ports and incoming ports. That outgoing, that's where we send participants to other jurisdictions and we pay that housing authority to lease them in their area. Incoming is where they come to us and that housing authority is actually paying us to house those participants in our area.
Thank you. Any commissioners discussion?
I think it's the same question I had from last time. Considering you have 1, 2, 3, call it 20, 30 categories, and then the one category with the bulk of everything is just sitting in the other vouchers, why is that why is it not more defined?
What page are you on?
I'm on page 2 of 11. I mean, you look at page 1 and you got the breakdown of the different voucher systems. Seems to be pretty well itemized. And you get to all other vouchers and there's the bulk of everything. I'm just curious why that's not more itemized as to the different categories and it's just put in another.
I'm sorry, Commissioner.
You want me to show
Okay.
you where it's at, or you see it?
Okay, I'm looking at all other vouchers, and you're talking about the
You got
total?
256, 256, 240, and then you got the dollars of HAP at 140, almost 50,000.
Okay, that's what we're leased monthly. See, the 256 is what we're actually leased, and then the 148,000, the 147,000, that's what we're paying. That's that monthly payment.
Yeah.
So what it is, okay, let me give you, the HAP was 148,336, and then the HAP last month, this is the,
I guess my point is, when you go up, you
Okay.
got DHAP, HCV vouchers lease 12, and then you got Veterans Affairs 0. All of these things are itemized, but you just got this big lump sum that's sitting in all
okay,
other.
because that's the regular HCV program.
Okay.
We have.
Is this a federal, like,
Yes.
That's their
Yes, this is-
standard, that's
yeah.
their standard form. So all of the other categories listed above all other vouchers are specialized parts of the program.
okay,
And so they would be listed individually, but the bulk of it is in the regular vouchers.
Yeah, these 256, they're just totally regular. The 12 under DHAP, that's the disaster housing. We still have 12 participants where we're being paid under the disaster program.
Okay.
And that's their total and last month's total and the average 12 months. The large number is the total months, the total number of participants we have on the entire program under the regular housing choice voucher. That's why the number is big, and that's why the dollar amount is big, because it's everybody.
All right. Any other board discussion?
Yes, sir.
All right, next agenda item, seeing no discussion there, is for the review and update of the St. Charles Parish Housing Authority's charges. So this is, just something, you know, obviously for the last 6 months, I've been working, as interim there at the Housing Authority, and just in the day-to-day operations, looking at different things that we're doing, and I know the board has brought the question up a couple times at meetings. What kind of fees are we charging residents for miscellaneous repairs or different things that we are entitled to charge them when there's an issue and different things? So I just asked Ms. Jackson to kind of compile a list of where we're currently at for the board to review. And then, you know, if we want to start looking at that and possibly see if revisions need to be made or if we need to be a little more detailed in some areas or whatever, just so the board's aware generally where we're at. And then if we want to make some recommendations for some future changes if we feel it's warranted.
When we talk about the late fee, that's what we've been doing?
Yes, currently, this is for rent only, and the rent is due on the 1st of each month. They're given until the 5th to pay. On the 6th of each month, there's a $5 late fee, and then thereafter, we charge $1 up until the 10th. So the maximum late fees that they're, on average, they would pay would be $10 a month.
Now, my next question is how, like, do they respect that? Like, is that $5 or something that, because typically,
No.
yeah, I may want to be a little bit higher. That's something we can discuss.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, they look at the $5 and like, oh, it's just $5 a month.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
You know, that's that. When I first saw it, was the first thing that came to my mind. Usually, it's like, you know, after the 5th day,
Yeah.
like $50. Well, we don't have to do that, but I see why, you know, management companies do that.
Well, I even polled a couple of housing authorities, and what they do is basically like this. Rent is due on the 1st, you have until the 5th, and then they'll do the $25, just a $25 late fee.
Right.
Because what we have is, it's time consuming where the housing manager has to go in and put a $5 late fee. Then the next day, you know, see who hadn't paid and put $1. Then the next day and put $1, next day and put $1, where they're only paying $10. And then, for example, if we get to the 12th and they haven't paid, then we have to give them a 14-day notice. So that puts them to the 26th of the month before we can even go to the justice of the peace for eviction. And we're going to get a court date at the end of the month, maybe the next month. So we could take a chance on losing 1 month's rent, even 2, without them paying. So
How many renters are we talking?
129.
129. Do we have a list of the receivables on that?
We, on an average, about,
It's
yeah,
a
it should
aged
be in here, but
it's-
it's, on an average, it's about 33,000, 33 to 35,000 per month.
But I mean, do you have an aging on that? Like who's late and how late?
Yes,
how-
yes. I don't
Is
have
that
it
in
with me
this?
tonight, but even under our occupancy policy, they can only be late 4 times in a year. So if they're late 4 times in a year, we get them in, we counsel, and some of them we send to court just to have a judgment made and filed that says they can't be late anymore, so they have to pay by the 5th of each month, or it's, you know, an automatic termination. We're not trying to put anybody out, but we're trying to collect those tenant account receivables because that really affects the budget also.
I would be interested in seeing a list of the receivables if
Okay.
you have that.
And I like to
An
revise
aged-
the-
Go
I'm
ahead.
sorry, an aging receivables?
Okay, okay.
And I like to
Commissioner Bailey?
revise the $5, then $1 after. I do like the idea of you know, like the other agencies do. When
One
it's
flat fee.
one flat fee
So,
and more than $5.
all right, so the revision recommendation this evening is one-time $25 late fee on the 6th of the month, along with vacate notice being sent to tenant. If rent is not paid by 10th of the month, $125 court costs be assessed and eviction process will proceed.
Oh, that's not already.
Do we want to Do we want to wait and look at the aging report on this to make that policy, or do we want to have a motion from the board to change that this evening?
Is what is
I think
being
we need
proposed, is that a norm? I mean, I don't know what other
Yes.
housing authorities, is that pretty standard that,
The management companies usually, yes. This is not the
I
norm.
mean-
What we've been doing. This is more or less the norm.
okay.
And basically, it's standard, and the housing authority does not receive the $100. The court cost is actually $100, so we would receive the $25 in administration
Yeah.
fees for eviction.
Well, I guess the question is with the receivables and you see, you know, you gave the terms, but are we actually evicting them? Are they taking it seriously?
Yes, we have been evicting some. It depends on when they go to court and, you know, the judge's decision. But usually, if he relies heavy, and it depends on the rent and what they say at court.
Yeah.
But there certainly have been tenants evicted.
Yes.
So do we have a motion to accept this as the new policy?
A quick question on the next page.
Okay?
These, it's probably self-explanatory. These new prices we're looking at, that's just if someone destroys some property, this is what we're gonna charge them? It says
No,
for
no, sir.
doors, porch lights, various things.
This is our current policy. This was revised in 2015, and this is currently, and this is, they're only charged above normal wear and tear, you know, if it's something that's not their fault, but if it's abuse, neglect, or something like that, we are going to charge. And most of these charges are at cost. You know, the housing authority does not make any money on these charges. Some of the charges we need to look at, I have the maintenance repairman pulling the materials listing to look at if we are actually losing money.
Ms. Jackson, what I would like to say is that, you know, on average, you're looking at approximately $12, $13 an hour that we're paying our maintenance staff to do work. And when they're doing repairs that were tenant-initiated damages, when we're charging just simply the cost of the materials, and we're taking our maintenance people off of their other jobs, which is to turn our units over, we're actually losing money, and we're not turning our units over at the speed that we need to. You know, HUD's looking for a 30-day turnaround on units, but we're taking crews off. So my recommendation on these two issues that we've discussed tonight would be to have a motion from the board to approve the revision on the rent, the late fee on the rent, but to then review this maintenance repair charges over the next 30 days, and then
Yeah.
Bring
Who came
those.
up with this list? I mean, how did you,
Well, we've had it for a while, and each year is just revised based on current costs. They would go in, and when we make orders, cost of materials, like, it's kind of obsolete.
as Chairman Webb said, I mean, is there maintenance fees built into this, or is this
No.
just at cost?
This is at cost, no labor is charged.
So you starting out at a loss?
Yes.
And I mean, I was listening to last month, one of the gentlemen here was saying they went repaired a window, and obviously a kid threw a baseball or something through it, and the next day was called, the window was broken. Then the third day came, the window was broken, and they were obviously, it was initiated by the tenant. And what, you know, that's a high cost to have a repairman constantly going around in circles with that.
Yeah. All right, so at this time, is there any further discussion regarding either of the maintenance or the late rent from any other commissioners?
Are we approving the?
We're looking for a motion, if you'd like to make a motion.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion to approve the revision of a policy for the late rent, for the charges for rent not coming in on time.
Okay. A motion made by Commissioner Bailey on the late rent revision as recommended.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Woods. All in favor? Aye. The motion carries. So, Ms. Jackson, we will use the recommended revision moving forward, and we can send a notice out to tenants so they'll be aware of the change.
And Mr. Chair, with the understanding that we are gonna do some price adjusting on this other revised maintenance repair charges. am I
Yes,
correct?
so that would be a separate issue
Right.
regarding
Okay.
maintenance. And so my recommendation would be that we as a board look this over. We've had this about a week, but this is our first time to formally to talk about it. So just understanding now what we're actually looking at as a report for these repair, I would say, look it over, price materials out, look at the cost of our labor, and then as a board, we can discuss it again next meeting and see if we want to look at making some changes or if we need to do some more investigating on that. But certainly update it so that way we're, it's not about being unfair to tenants. It's about having people take responsibility. If you're damaging a unit or you're late on your rent, just being responsible for your responsibilities. So,
And just to make sure I'm clear, that this revision, that's something staff is gonna be bringing back to us with adjusted numbers?
no, I mean, this would be based on board review, and we'd come and make our recommendations at the next meeting.
Well, I think it's just, we're gonna have to come up with a calculation for an overhead fee.
Well, I mean, we
Well,
got
that's
the
something
cost of
on top.
materials and then how much the maintenance guys,
Yeah.
the cost for them to go out there and fix it. So, I think that's a good start.
If it takes an hour to install a new door, then
Right.
we have to
Then-
figure that cost of the
Of their
labor.
time to
Right.
go out there and do it, plus the materials. That's how we can start at least.
Not to be clear again, are you saying that's what we are gonna go out a door, or staff is gonna go see how much a door costs these days and what it takes to put it in and
Well, I
bring a
mean,
number to us?
this was last revised in 2015, and certainly cost of materials has gone up since that time, but it's not a completely antiquated list, and I would think just the board is able to have a pretty good idea based on this list, and I mean, you can Google some of these answers from sources, Home Depot, Lowe's, hardware stores, and different things, and get an idea, are we
No,
at the right level?
I think it's the
and-
maintenance side. So having the maintenance
Right, I
department
mean-
review of how long does it take, how many hours, if they could at least have the maintenance group say, how long does it take to replace one of these? And then we can come up with the average hourly rate of the maintenance crew and come up with a overhead charge on each one of these items. I think that's all we're asking, is that we're not, the board sitting here
Yeah,
not
yeah.
calculating
Right.
what an overhead charge would be for these.
Yeah, I think the cost of the materials is pretty much in line with what they actually are or close to it. And it would be a matter of adding something to compensate the cost in labor, because that's a place we're losing every month, that you're not only losing in the time spent on the job doing the maintenance repair, but you're losing in that other maintenance is being neglected, because, so it's really double time what you're losing anytime a repair has to be made.
And like you said, Commissioner Webb, Commissioner Jay, a majority of these prices are up to date. My big concern is, and it's always been, it's with the stop-ups. We have, and that's plumbing, that's stop-ups in the bathroom or the kitchen. We charge $15 for the small stop-ups and $25 for the large. Large is if we have to take out the machine, sometimes the guys have to get on the roof. Or they have to, kind of tunnel. It's $25 is not enough for a stop-up. And, we charge, they pull out all kind of toys, hair, feminine products, and some of them are repetitive. Now, we do counsel and we get them in, but if they were paying a larger fee, when we have to call out the plumber, we had one plumber we used to call out, and just the trip charge was $140 for him to come out, you know. So they don't mind paying $15 for a stop-up because it's $15.
Well,
you know.
and that goes back to HUD, assuming that's where the funding comes from, is understanding how much are they giving us for maintenance? Is it just for the turnarounds that you were mentioning and not for these additional repair time?
Well-
We got to figure out the difference. We either need to charge more on these fees or figure out if there's more allotment from HUD, which is going to be a harder uphill battle.
What HUD gives us, they gives us per unit, a unit month lease price on the units, and if they fund us at 80%, then they'll give us 80% of that per unit price. They do give us maintenance based on average of what we send in, but it's never, we're always under in maintenance because we have so many call out, and our materials is, you know, is really high. Because
The other question, you know, we were talking about receivables on the rents. What is the likelihood to collect on these additional charges? Are we successful in getting that?
yes, we are, because they have to pay it 30 days. If they're charged January 1st, they have 30 days, they have to pay it on the 1st of the following month. So they do pay, because we don't accept the rent.
Yeah. Okay.
The other thing that I'd like to possibly consider is I've seen in private apartment situations where you have a maintenance issue that's a repetitive, there's a sliding scale. So your first incident with an appliance or an issue that the tenant's obviously broken themselves, it's one fee. But if it's a second repeat thing within a 12-month period, then it's an additional charge, because this is obviously an ongoing issue to discourage. So is that something that we can look at doing? Is that within guidelines or?
Yes, we
Okay.
can, what HUD wants you to do, they want you to earn revenues, however, not put the resident in a situation where it's a hardship to them.
Sure. I mean, and I don't think we need to have out-of-the-line
Yeah.
fees for this, certainly reasonable and customary to what is out there. But also, if you're talking about damage to property, that's something that's easily avoidable. You don't damage the
Yes.
property. So, okay, any more discussion? All right, so in regard to the maintenance repair charges, we'll kind of look at that over the next month and then revisit that for possible revision at the next meeting. All right? All right, and then we'll get,
But just to clarify, is the maintenance crew going to give us a
yeah,
guidance
I
on
would
how
say,
long?
Ms. Jackson, if we could get the maintenance crew to just give us their estimate of how long it takes to do each item, because that will give us a better idea of how we best need to adjust it, if we could
Also,
have that.
anything else on that list that stands out to you, like the plumbing, like you just mentioned, make sure we get note of that.
Yeah, I mean, while they're doing it, not to over-labor it in administrative, but in that column for another, just any heads up, like you were just saying, any
Yeah.
extra, something that jumps out, like, this is not just a door repair. This is something else that goes on usually when we
Okay.
have this.
Okay. All right, so we'll get a update now on the agency. Ms. Jackson, if you want to.
Okay. I'm just going to read the general report here for the St. Charles Parish Housing Authority. The corrective action plan, the CAP, was completed by the board chairperson, Webb J., and submitted to the local HUD field office on Wednesday, June the 13th. The PHL will wait for a response to this submission. Commissioners and the PHA staff are currently working, That's an error, because we have submitted, it was submitted on the 13th of June, so that's a correction I need to make on that line item. It wasn't deleted. Under Tennessee, a resident meeting was scheduled to be held on Friday, June the 22nd at the community center. This meeting was not held due to, we had several reasons. We had staff changes, and we lost our resident commissioner. We will reschedule a meeting for the July months, and we'll cover basically what we had for June and July at the July meeting. We're also going to try to have 2 meetings because I spoke with several residents in the Boutique site, and some of them just don't have transportation. So we're going to have one small meeting in the office for those Boutique residents, and then we'll have a second meeting in Hunville at the community center. Under the HCVP program, the voucher management system, the report was submitted on June 18th before the June 22nd deadline. We leased up 11 new contracts. They were signed on between May 19th through June 19th, increasing the total lease-up rate to 283. In addition to that, we have 17 new vouchers that were issued on March the 29th. To date, 15 applicants have turned in RFTA, and that is RFTA packet. That's just a packet where they're going to lease up. They found a house, and the next step would be the managers would go out and do an inspection to see if the home passes. They would come back, negotiate a fair rent with the landlord, and we would lease that participant up, and that would be a move-in. Leasing up is the goal for both programs, but we have really made a big dent in our HCV program within the last year. Under the maintenance department, they're still working diligently, trying to make ready units for lease-up and complete work orders. We have a total of 8 vacancies, and 3 units are ready for move-in. Out of those 3 units, we moved in 1 on yesterday. We have a second unit scheduled to be moved in on tomorrow, and that 3rd unit on Friday. Ms. Hayes has now taken over that move-in process, and she's diligently working. We sent letters out, and the 19th was the deadline, so we are already processing applicants to be ready to go in as soon as the units are turned. Sometimes they have problems coming up with the security deposit, or they don't know they have a balance with the energy. So we're working in advance, so if they have that problem, we can get it all straightened out, have them ready to go, turnkey when the unit's ready.
Those 8 vacancies, are they less than 30 days? Or?
Well, we have this,
I have the
let me
sheet out
see.
there
We have
for
the
me, Doc. Here we
spreadsheet.
go.
And this is the HUD printout that's in our PIC system from HUD. Some of those are over 30 days, but we have apartment 3. Apartment 84 is a mod unit. 83 was filled on Monday. Apartment 242 will be filled tomorrow. And apartment 237 will be filled on Friday. The maintenance department this week, they have been really busy. We had 2 big major plumbing issues in our Desalmon site, so it took all 3 men, and they've been out there working. It kind of pulled them from turning the units around. But when we have any life-threatening emergencies or big plumbing issues, is always an emergency. So they've been out there. We had to call the plumber out today. We had a leak that we could not find, and the plumber's been out there all day in the wall, and he couldn't find the leak. So tomorrow he's going to come back and try again.
Like Hornville, it's an infrastructure problem.
Yes, it's a leak in the wall, yes.
Speaking of the Hanville site, we did get a quote, I think late today, is that correct?
Yes.
Just on estimate of repairs for the Hanville infrastructure with the pipe under the roadway. And it was estimated about $90,000 for repairs. Councilman Wilson's here this evening. Councilman Wilson, would you mind just kind of giving us an update? I know you've been researching some stuff for us in regard to some of our infrastructure and.
Good evening, Ms. Jackson, the rest of the board. I spoke with Mr. Webb J. about a week or so ago, and I had requested the council staff to do a little research because I once served as a commissioner with the Housing Authority back in the late 80s, early 90s, and we had gone through a process like an act of dedication under, I want to say, Parish President Chris Trigg was the Parish President of St. Charles at the time. So I have, the staff provided me with some documentation which is incomplete, and then I have another gentleman who worked under every Parish President that we had, Mr. Timmy Vial. He was able to put his hands on some paperwork about a dedication about the Booty site, but he was out of the office the beginning of this week, so he should be back in his office. He no longer worked for Parish government, he worked for the assessor, but he's assisted me to try to put our hands on whatever paperwork that I could present to the administration and possibly get some support from parish government. But it's something I'm working on to try to present to the parish president and the CAO based on, because I'm drawing from something that occurred, 20 or so years ago. But I remember we was having some major problems with sewer lines in the Hornville site, Smith Complex. And when that act of dedication occurred, from what I recall, we took over as parish government the responsibility for sewer, even the overhead expense for the street lighting. Now, I've spoken with the current wastewater director who has probably been in that capacity for about 7 or 8 years, and he's drawing from memory. He says as far as when he took over, the understanding he had using Booty, Chadbourne Estates, for example, their responsibility started with the pumps where it discharges into the parish's major sewer system. But from what I recall, it was the pipes under the street within the development, because I remember the parish president and the administration at that time, they took a position that they would be willing to accept as a form of dedication, but the housing authority had to turn over good pipes. So the housing authority went through the expense, and some contractor came out and they identified where we had blockage, pluggage, grease, you name it. And then once the integrity with the improvements were made, then the parish government became responsible. So I have the wastewater guy saying it starts with the pump. You all are responsible for the pipes under the street. But there's some paperwork that I have individuals looking to confirm what I recall happening when I was a commissioner. So hopefully by this time next week, I'll know for certain in what level of support that we could, expect. Because I mean, I just make up the legislative branch of government, but I'm working on trying to obtain the information since I was a part of that dedication and make it available to the parish president and the CAO, and it's up to them to direct based on the documentation I'm able to provide to give orders out of the public works or wastewaters to assist in any way we can, whether it's right where the development ties into the main line, or are we responsible in Hornville, for example, from the end of Sunset Court all the way to Smith Street, which at one time used to be called Morgan Street. But some of the dedication paperwork I have that dates back into the mid-90s when they changed the name from Morgan to Smith, and they didn't even have street signs in the development. It was just called the Hornville Project. Now it's Richard Smith Complex, and there's a pole with a green sign on it. And normally green signs is an indication that it's a dedicated street. A blue sign is a private, but green is normally is an indication that it's dedicated. And there was some dedication. I just don't know the details in the dedication. One side saying we don't own it all, we just own right where the pumps is. So that paperwork, between records and the individual that have assisted me, I'm hoping by this time next week I'll have it, and keep my fingers crossed and hope that we can do as much as what was done years ago with previous administrations, who was around when the documentation was first blessed. But I'll keep you guys informed as the information become available to me.
I appreciate that. Does any commissioners have any questions for Councilman Wilson at this time?
And also,
No, that would be extremely helpful, because, I mean, I've been here 2 months, and, I mean, I've heard plumbing, I don't, umpteen times, that's the root cause of a lot of problems right now. in
right.
the,
What I'll do, I'll try to ensure that my colleague, Ms. Belloc, is aware of, where I am in this process. If you look at the three developments, DeZelma Square, Chadbourne, and Smith, two of them is within the district that I represent on the council, which is, Chadbourne and Smith. So they're in my district, although Ms. Belloc is the ex officio on you guys' board. So I'll, keep her informed and abreast of what's going on. And soon as I get something a little bit more definitive, I'll provide that with Parish President Cochran and his folks. And even if we have to set up a meeting with Mr. Fauché, who's over the entire public works, and his wastewater guy, so we can know what the path forward is going to be based on the documentation. They're only going to proceed and do what that paperwork said they can legally do. So I'm going to continue to work it.
And, that's been the question. It's like, we're all, some of us have been on this board longer, but the recollection of what you're talking about is not with us. So just getting a clear answer. If the parish is responsible for all or a portion of the work, and then if the housing authority is, just knowing who's responsible for what, and then getting a path forward. That's what we're looking for, so.
And I'm going to continue to work it.
All right.
Thank you
Appreciate
for
it.
your
Thank you, sir.
answers.
Okay, thank you.
appreciate it.
All right. The other thing that I'd like to mention this evening is we actually have a bit of news this evening that I'd just like to address. Commissioner Champagne, Seven Champagne, she's been a longtime resident commissioner. She actually was able to purchase a house and is no longer living in public housing, and she's not here this evening, but by virtue of moving out of public housing, she no longer qualifies as resident commissioner. But I would like to take this opportunity to just thank her for her service on the board and acknowledge her many years of service to this board. So we thank her this evening.
Mr. President, even may I ask and
Yes.
add, for the number of years that she's served on this board and with the parish, could we do some type of formal presentation, kind of maybe just thanking her for her service?
Yeah, I believe that generally speaking, and Mr. Wilson, you could probably speak to this, what the parish council does. Is there some type of proclamation or something that's given or plaque? or-
Yes, sir. What'll happen is once she submits her letter that she's resigning, the council staff will handle, and it'll be a plaque presented to her, and she'll, be notified. She'll come to a council meeting, and, we'll thank her for her years of service. They'll have a photo op, and she could come up here, and if she wants to say a few words, because if my memory serves me correctly, she's only the second. When there was a time when they began the process, we were going to have a resident on the commission. The first individual we had, she's no longer with us, Ms. Ruth Bove was the first resident, and I want to say Ms. Seven Champagne replaced her when she passed away, and we haven't had one since. So she's the second, and she's probably been there for well over a decade.
Yeah, I think it's like 18 years.
18 years, yeah, she's been there a long time.
That's exactly what I was hoping to do, and I'm glad the parish does something to acknowledge her years and time of service. And personally, thank you, Seven, so much.
Yeah, thank you.
Right, and what'll happen, that process, once she officially submits a letter of resignation, some things change from when I was first put on the Housing Authority Board. That was in June of 1984. So I was put there by my council person, but some things changed in the legislature, so the parish president will submit a name, and that individual will be, but I'm pretty sure now maybe Ms. Leela with, the relationship and the people that she interfaced with at the three sites, that's probably someone that she may be aware of that will be willing to, and have the ability to get transportation to attend the meetings. And once we get that name, and that individual will fill out a questionnaire, and at that time, I guess the administration will make a recommendation, and I haven't had one, I don't recall us even seeing anything on the council, so evidently Larry will get that name, and it will vet that process, go through the vetting process with a questionnaire, and that individual will replace Ms. Champagne.
Thank
All
you.
right.
Thank you,
Thanks.
appreciate it. All right, at this time, the board like to entertain a motion to move into executive session.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to pass a motion that we enter an executive session.
All right, we have a motion by Commissioner Bailey,
Second?
second by Commissioner Lorette. All in favor?
Aye.
That motion carries.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to pass a motion that we enter back in, we leave executive session and enter back into our regular meeting.
All right, motion made by Commissioner Bailey,
Second?
second by Commissioner Lorette. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, the time is now 7:22. We now rejoin the regular meeting. All right, do we have any motions from the board at this time?
Yes, Mr. Chair. I make a move that we make an offer of employment to Ms. Leatrice Hollis.
All right, we have a motion of employment in regard, that's to the executive director.
Second.
All right, second by Commissioner Bailey. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, that motion carries. At this time, we'll now open up for public comments, if there's anyone that would like to speak or address the board. All right, and I do see Ms. Hollis here. So, Ms. Hollis, I'll get with you tomorrow to discuss the actual terms and everything, and we'll work that out. But if you'd like to introduce yourself to the board.
Yes,
Okay.
I just met a new friend.
Is the green light on? It's green?
Excuse me?
The green light on the, is it green or
Microphone.
red?
You got a,
It's red.
Okay, press
there's a
the push.
button that says push.
Just,
We're trying to get you on public television.
There it is.
Thank you, sir.
thank you.
Hi, everyone. My name is Leatrice Hollis. I've had an opportunity to speak to at least 3 of you guys so far, and thank you. I just want to say thank you for the opportunity. I'm excited. I look forward to working and making a difference.
All right, we appreciate it.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I've been here for an hour, and I have a new friend already.
All right, thank you and welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right,
I'm sorry, anyone had any questions? Any questions?
No,
None?
I think we're
fine.
good.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
all right, and at this time, is there anyone else that would like to address the board for public comments? All right, seeing none, do we have any motions from the board?
Mr. Chair, I make a motion that we adjourn the meeting 7:25.
A second.
Second by, motion made by Commissioner Woods, second by Commissioner Bailey. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, this meeting is now adjourned. Time is 7:25. Thank y'all.
Thank you.